think the one fear that my cousins always instilled in me, because they had finished school earlier. So my cousin was doing some Django Jobo. So he's like, I hope you pass your exam because this is what you're going to do immediately after school. And I was like, no.
Right.
So because of that, I was like, I really need to pass my exams, find something to do, go to the university, because that's just the normal structure we are used to seeing.
Yeah. Yes. Where can we start? Tuanze na where you began. Where did your journey begin?
Yeah, so, wow. It's been a long journey, actually, but a beautiful one as well. Now, while starting my design journey, I had no idea I'd be a designer in the first place. Yeah, it wasn't really planned. So immediately after high school, what we were trying to do is try to see, what am I going to do immediately after school? And I think the one fear that my cousins always instilled in me, because they had finished school earlier. So my cousin was doing some Django Jobo. So he's like, I hope you pass your exam because this is what you're going to do immediately after school. And I was like, no.
Right.
So because of that, I was like, I really need to pass my exams, find something to do, go to the university, because that's just the normal structure we are used to seeing.
Yeah.
Now, immediately I finished, got good grades, thank God. Was waiting to join campus, and apparently I got called to a university in Gishu
What?
to do agriculture.
What? But you selected that in high school?
No,
See those that
I wasn't even doing agriculture in the first place.
Oh.
I was doing business. So the course was related to business and agriculture.
Oh.
But it was too far. And I was like, how am I going to navigate that and go to a course that I'm not really into? Stayed at home, and then I got lucky. So we got a chance to have an interview for people who would like to do, they're calling it computer classes, but it was a course being done by Narrabit School. So the school was based in Kibera, and they had an interview, and they called. So anyone who needs to go to campus, they haven't gotten a chance to, and they'd like to join a course where they learn about computer basics and stuff, they can be able to join. Now, that's when I went for the interview, did the interview, and got accepted. And that was where my design journey began. From basic computer skills, then as the years went by, we leveled up to basic Photoshop skills, where we started doing things like posters, and then doing music covers for different artists here and there. And then as time went by, I graduated as a front-end developer, not really a designer. So the design aspect was part of the process, even through the course, because they had it in two ways. There was the design side and there was the development side. Now, from my side, I looked at the design bit as, I think this is something I can learn. So let me pick something that I need help with learning. So I chose web development, and that's what I majored on till I completed. And after school, that was when I started putting in more practice in when it comes to things like design. But my first two jobs were web development based.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there. There's so much to unpack there. So how long did it take you to learn all this?
A year and a half. Yeah, the course is, it's not a long course. It's just a year and a half and really rigorous, because as time went by, they were trying to evaluate who was really serious when it comes to taking on the course. And then after they evaluate, I can call them cohorts. That's cohort one, or there's cohorts where you complete a specific session, and then they evaluate and see who has done well and who hasn't done well, and then they remove the people who have not done well, or people they feel they're not serious. So if you started the class, let's say 100, you'd end up graduating, let's say 40 or 60. So you had to really make sure you're really good, or you're putting in a lot of effort for you to proceed to the next level.
Interesting. Now, so you learned front-end web developing and design at the same time?
Yes, at the same time.
It's funny to think how, comparing your work right now, and to think that there was a time where you didn't even know how to use a computer. it must have been a journey.
It is. It actually is. Now, a thing I've always had from back in the day is I draw.
Okay.
Yeah, but it didn't really mean anything at the time. It's the things you do for fun, the things you enjoy doing, but don't really actively put so much attention to it. So I used to draw, and I think as I joined the design space, then I began to see how I can use drawing into design. Then it began to make sense how that sort of gift can be used in different ways when it comes to just shaping my craft.
Okay. So you've answered my next question. I was to ask whether you picked up creativity or it's something that's within you.
Yeah, so I've always drawn, and I think that has also influenced how I do some things that I do. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, your first job, you've said your first job was front-end web developing. So that's coding HTML and CSS.
Yes, HTML, CSS, WordPress, Joomla. Those are the things I was majoring on. Yeah.
Like you went to the complex stuff before even grasping. Hey, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you started working with agencies or?
No, so at the time, so backstory, after I finished school, that first week applied for jobs. I didn't know there were agencies that existed.
Okay.
Had no idea. Now I applied for web development jobs because that's all I knew. Now I applied and I got lucky to work for one in town, CBD. Yeah, and with a small office, the three of us in that office, a small cubicle, and the primary job was to roll out CMS websites, which is WordPress websites.
Okay.
And that was the thing that I was working on. I was fairly new to it. I hadn't grasped everything, but that was where I started my footing when it comes to really understanding what the CMS world is and what the WordPress can do.
So when you were learning development, did you learn the stages where you for prototyping? Did you learn the stages where you maybe create a framework, you sketch out ideas before, or you just dived into developing?
That's a good question. At the time, so I didn't really understand, but now as I've evolved, when I look at that situation right now, what's making sense is it was a really fast-paced industry at the time.
Okay.
And what was expected was that you're given an idea by a client and you roll out that website in 2, 3, 4 days. This is without having any sketches done or any conversation with the client about information architecture and breaking that down onto a website and all that. So it's like the client just gives you an idea and tells you, for example, I want a bridal website. And you figure out how that's going to be. And where I was, I think the thing that was making it feel so easy or look so easy when it comes to rolling out a complete website was because you buy a theme, a bridal theme, and then all you have to do is customize it to fit what the client wants. That's why it felt like a really fast-paced environment where the client only needs to tell you the idea of what they want, then you roll that out into a complete website in less than a week.
Okay. So I'm sure if you look back, you'd say, okay, comparing your work right now and your work previously, I'm sure there's a difference.
True, there is. And for me, what made it very difficult even while working there is I was used to a certain process, which was when I get a brief from a client that wants, let's say, a bridal website, I need to think about, okay, how am I going to shape this experience? Okay. While at the place, it wasn't like that. It was, there's this brief, start building, there's a template, build from the template and figure out the images. Now, what made me even slow while working there was my boss was expecting me to deliver a complete website in less than a couple of days. And when I use my process of, okay, let me think through the website, let me have a sketch on a piece of paper, see how it's going to flow, then translate that, that was making me lose a lot of time, which made it very difficult for me throughout that first job. Yeah.
Huh, okay. And then, so from web developing, what next did you do?
So my first 2 jobs are 2 web development jobs. I remember at the time, my second job was the time when Uhuru had brought in laptops for school kids. And my job was to translate those textbooks into digital books. So that meant coding the textbooks into digital formats that could be put into these laptops that kids have in school.
Okay.
So that was my second job. I did that for a while, and I think after maybe 2 years, I felt like I needed more. I needed something different. But still, my mind wasn't really settled on design. I just needed a different job. Yeah.
Okay.
So wrapped up that job and then stayed home for a couple of months, just waiting. And then on one Sunday, I just woke up and I was like, what other opportunities are there beyond coding? And then I Googled, and then I saw that like so many digital agencies in Kenya. I didn't really even really understand the word, what it meant. But I was like, it's an agency. It has a developer and a designer. Sure, why not? Wrote and submitted 10 applications on a Sunday. And I was like, the one that works, that's what I'll go with. So sent the emails, and then Monday morning, I received 6 emails from potential people who would like to work with me. And it just happened that the first one I went to an interview with, that's where I stuck. Yeah.
Interesting. And that was, okay, so you, as a designer?
As a designer, yes. Now fully, because they were looking for designers.
Okay.
And I had been doing some design on the side for people, like posters, stuff like that, illustrations here and there. And I put together a nice resume and a portfolio. And when I submitted it, I think they loved my illustration work. That's when they reached out to me and they're like, we like this specific work. Can you do it? I was like, yes. And that's how I got a chance to work with them.